all these different lenders have different abilities to do different things. And if you don't really know all the different things that they can do, then, you might make a call to a hard money lender and they deny a deal. That's a really good deal. But like the guy over here would not deny it. It's just these guys might be, hey, we're private money, but they're really institutional money that's being lent out at a private money rate. Where if you really wanted a private money lender, they're over here and they'll lend on it.
Welcome to the Real Freedom Show, where we inspire you to pursue your passion to gain time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. Let's get some real freedom together. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Freedom, Real Estate Leverage Freedom, where we talk about different ways people are building time and financial freedom through opportunities in real estate. I'm your host, Mike Swenson. If you want to get started on your real estate investing journey, check out our website, freedomthroughrealestate.com. We've got great information, videos, all of our past episodes to find somebody that connects with you, find a story, something like that resonates, that's going to have you take action and move forward in your real estate investing journey, however that might look. For today, I've got a super exciting episode for you. We've got Nick Price. Nick is a Florida real estate investor broker, founder of First Lending Network, and so has an extensive background in real estate investing and flipping. Now is doing more on the lending side. And fun fact, going to be married here in just a little bit after this episode releases. So doing a destination wedding to Italy. And so we were talking about that offline, just a ton of cool stuff. So Nick, excited to have you on the show and excited to hear more about your story.
Thanks, Mike. Super happy to be here.
Talk a little bit about your background, just kind of a quick water ski of kind of what you've done in real estate, and then we'll dig in a little bit deeper from there.
Sure. So I'm a licensed real estate broker. I've been in real estate since 2018. I've been learning about real estate since like 2016. And then I'm the founder of First Lending Network, and we have lending partners in most of the states. There's 2 states that we don't have any lending partners in right now, is California and Arizona, but working on those. And then I also have a background in co-living. So we went from 21 units to 115 units in co-living, and did all that in the Tampa Bay area. So I've done kind of pretty much everything in the last 6 years. I always joke and say that I started working for a guy that was retired private equity, and it turned into like a masterclass executive MBA in real estate investing. That's kind of my background.
Talk a little bit about why real estate for you. What was it about real estate? You mentioned that you had, been studying real estate before you dove in, but thinking about, working a regular job, whatever that might look like, a regular career path outside of real estate, what was it that attracted you to real estate?
Yeah. So it's kind of funny. I actually saw this funny meme the other day where it talks about like your hospitality journey, and it's like dishwasher, busser, server, bartender, real estate agent. And it made me laugh because like, that's kind of what my life was I got started in hospitality, and I worked kind of what got me into real estate is there's a couple different things, but the main thing was when I was working, I worked at this like higher end country club resort called Innisbrook, just outside Tampa. And it's where they hold the Valspar Championship. So they do like the PGA Tour events. You have a bunch of members there that are business owners in the community. And I started there, and I started as a server and then eventually became a bartender. And when I shifted from being a server to the bartender, I found that I started having more like in-depth conversations. Like as a server, it was more so just kind of turning tables and doing whatever I needed to do. And then when I became the bartender, I started talking to people more. And I was in awe one day when we did this private party for a guy that owned a title agency. And I didn't know what a title agency was back then. I like super green to real estate at this point. And I just knew that it was Vantage, like whatever the title agent was called. And his Christmas party was $91,000, and they had an automatic gratuity on it. And then he tipped another $15,000 on top of it for everybody that was there, because we were there for like 20 hours. And I was like, wow, that's insane. I've never seen something like that before in my life. And so I specifically started talking to him like, hey, like how did you become wealthy, like to the point where you can afford that kind of like a party? And then he told me he owned a title company in all 50 states and was going to sell it at the end of the year for $184 million or something. And so I started asking every member. So everyone that was coming to the bar, I started asking him, like, how did you get wealthy? And there was a constant theme, and it was always through business or through real estate. And I have a entrepreneurship degree. I went to school for entrepreneurship. And so I had already known about business, and I was building businesses while in school. And then the real estate thing kind of dawned on me, like, oh, well, real estate is a business, right? It's also a business, but it's also like a trade. And so the more and more I started talking to members, the more and more I realized that almost all of them, whether they were in real estate as a business, they were in real estate in some fashion. So whether they owned condos in the condo pool in the resort, or they owned multifamily properties or commercial space or whatever. And so I really, from that moment on, I started just digging into everything I could learn about real estate and real estate private equity, and kind of like, how do you invest in real estate when you have no money? And it just took me down a long path of learning. And then I got an opportunity in 2018 to go work as a transaction manager for a residential real estate team. And then I went from transaction manager to listing manager to then I was doing tech and admin for all of the agents. And then I got licensed after that because I started seeing how much money the real estate agents were making compared to what I was making as an admin. And I was like, I feel like I could do this. And so then I went and got licensed, and then I started my career from there. And then after getting licensed, I got an opportunity to go work for the retired private equity guy, building out the co-living, basically the co-living business, and learning everything about zoning analysis, financial analysis, construction, property management, refinancing, everything I could. So it's kind of a weird journey, but I started my career off wanting to be in business through the entrepreneurship program. And then it led me to real estate over time as I learned more about like building wealth.
Well, that's very similar to me. Entrepreneurship degree, then real estate admin, got my license, and then started working with investing. So two peas in a
Awesome.
pod, right?
Yep, that's right.
So talk a little bit about co-living then. For people that may not know, it's a little bit more of a hot topic now. You started way back when, but for people that are, kind of interested in co-living, give them kind of a 101 here of what it is.
Yeah, so co-living is like it's become a newer trend in real estate investing in the States, but it's like a very common thing that's always existed. It's just never been named co-living or shared housing. And if you look over in like Asia and Europe and some of the other places around the world, there's a lot of co-living that already exists. And you have all your different types of co-living. So you have like your high-end co-living that's like focused on digital nomads, and they want all the experiences and all the amenities and super nice housing and to be right in the mix. And then you have it all the way down to the other end of the spectrum where you have co-living that's just for affordability. So there's a ton of that going on right now, and it's kind of exploding. There's one big player in the space right now called Pad Split that is kind of like the marketplace for co-living. And so take it as like the Airbnb for co-living. And they're at like 24,000 units nationwide. So it's grown really fast. But in between those two players, there's like all different types of co-living brands, whether they're one-offs or they're just someone that has a house that they live in one of the rooms and they rent out 4 other rooms in the house. But it's essentially like depending on which model you go, there's like the membership model where it's not rooms for rent, and then there's rooms for rent model where it is rooms for rent. And different municipalities will have different laws, pertaining to each of those.
So what was your role then working with the retired guy, kind of helping
Yeah.
him with the co-living stuff?
Well, it's funny because, like we said, we have this similar background in like the admin space, and I was doing a lot of the marketing stuff. And so I actually got brought on board to do the marketing. And then the first day of work was, hey, I know we're here to do marketing, but I want you to look at this piece of land and figure out what exactly you could build on it. So it very quickly shifted from like a marketing role to like doing the zoning analysis and figuring out, okay, if you have this lot and it's zoned for this, what can be built? What are the setbacks? Where can the house go? How much, floor area ratio is allowed? How much impervious surface area is allowed? how many bedrooms and bathrooms can we fit in, how can we design the house to be most efficient, all that stuff. So that's kind of like what started. And then it very quickly turned into like a development role where I was focusing on acquiring properties, doing the build outs, working with the GC and vendors, the architects, going through the full permitting process, essentially kind of working like an owner's rep and doing all the stuff that the owner's rep would do. And then setting them up and then staging them, like doing the furnishing and staging, doing all the listings, getting them marketed, finding the potential members, interviewing them, setting up the houses, making sure everything was going good. Then it went into the property management. So we basically did everything. We were building a vertically integrated system where we did everything from acquisitions to complete lease up. And then I decided, after kind of looking at all the opportunities, that lending was one of the opportunities that I really wanted to focus on. And so that's how I got into First Lending Network from co-living.
Real quick, then, just to back up, were these single family homes? Were these multifamily homes?
Single
and was
family.
kind of the idea just to, I mean, for better or worse, kind of you stuff as many bedrooms as you can into what you've got?
The goal was to deliver like rent at half of what the market rent is, because there was no option. So why I fell in love with it the most was my background with entrepreneurship led me into like this startup bus world where it's like a hackathon on a bus. But I always kind of had I've never had a ton of belongings. I've like acquired more as I've gotten a little bit older, but I've never really had a ton of things, just kind of my computer, my backpack, and my duffel bag. And so I fell in love with the business model because it was like, oh, wow, if I had known, if this existed when I was in school at USF St. Pete, like I would have totally lived in one of these, because it was like less than $1,000 and it was furnished. It had all utilities included. It had social events. It had cleaning. It had everything you could imagine. And so I fell in love with the business model really because I said, wow, this provides an opportunity to people that they wouldn't otherwise have, right? And then you build the network and the support system, and you make new friends, and that just doesn't really exist outside of co-living. Like if you think about a traditional apartment, you need to have 3 times the income requirement. You need to do first, last, and security deposit, which could be, if you're doing a 1-bedroom in St. Pete or Tampa right now, that's probably like $6,000-7,000. So like that's a lot of money for a college kid to just come up with to get into a place. And so you would see people just kind of get apartments together and share it organically. And so when I saw that this was a professionalized version of this sharing economy, I fell in love with it because it's like, this is perfect. Like someone's coming from Canada or they're coming from Tokyo and they don't know anybody here. They're immediately ingrained into a friend group. They build a support system that they have here, and everything's taken care of for them. There's no, hey, I got to do deposits for electric, water, and, internet. There's like, everything's just turnkey. And that's really what I fell in love with the most.
I mean, I think in a lot of ways, you think about in entrepreneurship, right? It's solving business problems, and this solves a lot of problems for a lot of people. You've got affordable housing in general, but then just the being able to make housing easier is another one. And then, the furnished piece, right? Having a furnished rental. There's just so many different boxes that it checks. And I will quick mention, I wish I would have known this up front. I would have looked it up, but we actually did have a high-level employee from Pad Split on a podcast. I think it was about 2.5 years ago, talking about the idea. And so Pad Split is not yet here in Minnesota, but I did talk with a sales rep probably a month or 2 ago just about their future plans and stuff like that. I know Minnesota's on the shorter list, but not the short list. And so talked with them about, what can we do here locally to make that work? Because I see a ton of value in it. And obviously it's become more popular now, but excited for you to have such an awesome role and to be in a spot where you can kind of do everything from soup to nuts and take it all the way from the beginning all the way then. So that's fantastic and just a great learning experience. I think the thing to highlight here for you is for people looking to get in real estate or wanting to go further in real estate, don't be so concerned about kind of where you get started. It's just get in, do something, and you'll either figure out you like that a lot or you like something else, and you'll kind of slowly move. But you got in on the admin side, got a chance to learn something different, use the skills that you had previously as a bartender, working in hospitality, and apply it. And then now got a chance to do that into co-living and now moving into First Lending Network. So it's cool to see how people's paths shake out in real estate. But tell us a little bit more about what excited you about the lending side now.
I want to touch on that part too for the people that might not be in real estate yet, because that was one thing for me where when I was an admin, I was like, I don't know if I should get licensed. I don't know if I want to be a real estate agent. I don't know if I want to do that. And I had a friend who's unlicensed, but is in like, he invests on his own and does his own work. And he looked at me and he goes, why wouldn't you get it? He's like, I don't think you understand the power in that. Like if you were to get your real estate license, it's going to open up so many more doors than you ever thought were possible. And when he said that to me, I really took it to heart. And I went home and I started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? He's right. And I'm so glad he said that to me, because that changed my perspective on it and made me go get licensed. And it literally did open up a world of opportunity to me. And that's kind of like looking at opportunity is how I got to First Lending Network. I started realizing that like there's so many real estate investors that do things different ways, right? Like you have people that do subject to and novations, you have people that do seller financing, you have people that use different types of financials to like acquire properties. And I started looking at all that as real opportunity. And then I started kind of talking to my friends that use hard money or private money financing and picking their brain and, doing the refinances. I got to see a lot of like the DSCR loans. I got to see a lot of like investment property loans or business loans or commercial loans. And so I started seeing there's all these different lenders. And then talking to my friends, I'm like, do you shop out your hard money loans? And they're like, no, I've just been using the same guy for 10 years. And then I started thinking to myself, maybe that's an opportunity, because there's so many different, like just in Tampa, there's probably like 30 hard money lenders. And then there's probably like 30 you don't even know about because they're not on Google, right? And so I started building a network of all these guys that do different things, because you have like your institutional hard money, and then you have your private money, and then you have your asset-based lending. So like there's even like in hard money loans alone, there's multiple different types of lenders that you could use. And so what I wanted to do was build a network of all these lenders where someone could come to us. They would have an education and knowledge base on the website that gives them all the info they could possibly want about all the different types of loan products that are out there for non-QM loans. So not consumer loans, just all investment and business purpose loans. And then give them the opportunity, if they wanted to get referred, that we refer them to a handful of lenders and try to basically shop it out. So that's where I've come up with First Lending Network, and now that's what we're doing. Like I just funded a $4 million portfolio loan through one of my lenders, and we just did a $220,000 condo loan that was like an unwarrantable condo. So it's interesting how like all these different lenders have different abilities to do different things. And if you don't really know all the different things that they can do, then, you might make a call to a hard money lender and they deny a deal. That's a really good deal. But like the guy over here would not deny it. It's just these guys might be, hey, we're private money, but they're really institutional money that's being lent out at a private money rate, where if you really wanted a private money lender, they're over here and they'll lend on it.
Backing it up a few steps, something that's important for people to understand, especially people that haven't been on the real estate investment side, is number one, because I see this in like social media comments on, posts about investing in real estate. They're like, well, I don't make enough money to be able to invest in real estate, because people's initial thoughts about lending is, if I go to buy my house, right, what do? They go check my personal income, my personal credit, and then they see what's your debt to income ratio.
Yep.
And okay, so if you're close, great. That's how we got our first loan. Completely blow that thinking out of the water. Anything that you have thoughts about how a residential loan is different on the commercial side. Now, yeah, sometimes, people are going to care about your credit. People might care about income. But as it comes to investment loans, a lot of times they're concerned about the property itself. And so I remember this aha moment I had when I talked to a commercial lender as I was doing more on the commercial side or starting to work with investors. And he's like, yeah, we just look at the income of the property and the expenses. And that's really what we base our lending decision on, not how much money you make in your personal job. And I was like, oh, so like a real common sense approach to lending.
Yeah,
And he's like,
exactly.
yes. And so for people listening to that, you've got to just break your way of thinking of like, oh, I don't have to make more money on my W-2 job or whatever I am outside of real estate to be able to invest. You may have, if you're completely new to it, you may want to partner with somebody who has done it before because a lender may want to see some experience, but
Fine.
you don't have to take your preconceived notions about how a residential loan works and apply it to investing in real estate. And then from there, hopefully that opens up your mind to think, oh my gosh, I can do a lot more on the investing side, because that's really a key for people. So obviously, yeah, what you're building is amazing. There's a ton of need there, but just for people that maybe haven't been exposed to the commercial side, it's so
Yeah.
different from the residential side. And the agents on the team that I work on that don't deal with investment, they just have a hard time getting their brain wrapped around that simple concept.
Yeah, it's definitely true. I hear that a lot too, where it's like, oh, it's a second mortgage loan. And it's like, yeah, you could go that way, but they're going to look at they're going to look at your DTI. They're going to look at your personal income, your everything like that. Whereas like the DSCR lenders are going to look at exactly what you said. How much money does it rent for? What's your mortgage? What's your expenses? Do you cover the mortgage? If it covers the mortgage, then it could work for them. And there's all sorts of different DSCR lenders that do, like, some do 30 years, some do 40 years, some do 10% down, some do 30% down. So that's a whole nother world of like shopping out a rental property lender. But then you have the guys too that do asset-based lending, and they don't care about credit scores. They don't care about backgrounds. They don't care. All they care about is what's the asset worth today. And I'll lend 70 to 75% of what it's worth today. Now, it's probably a more expensive loan, and that's just part of it. But I look at that like an opportunity for people that have never flipped a property, or someone that's been flipping with their own money and using all cash. It's like, hey, if you're using $500,000 of your own cash to flip every single time, you could probably do 4 or 5 flips if you used private money. And it's just, you're paying, anywhere from 10 to 12% interest on your money. But if it helps you do 4 more flips in that same 90-day timeline, you have a lot more money coming back to you than you spent in interest. So it's really neat when you start looking at all the different things. And like, as you get into bigger deals too, like there's all sorts of different lenders that will do like infrastructure build outs for, neighborhoods, and I mean, everything you can imagine. So I think that's, for me, what was so cool was just like the more I dug into it, the more I just found like there's so many options for people. And like you said, a lot of people think like, oh, I don't make enough money, I'll never get a loan. And it's like, that's not the case in the private world. That's all. Yeah. In consumer loans, if you don't have the money and you're trying to buy a house, they're not going to approve you, but if you're doing it as an investment or in the business world, and there's money to be made on the table, like there's a good chance that it'll get done.
And to your point, like it's such a great opportunity to have, because even on the commercial side, people think like, oh, I talked to one bank or I talked to 2 banks and one of them said no. And so now that means I can't move forward with my project. And no, it's kind of a matchmaking service, right? You've got to partner up what you're wanting to do with the lender that's excited about doing the deals that are similar to what you like to do. And obviously the rates are going to be adjusted based on the risk and all that kind of stuff. However, look at it as more of you're trying to put a puzzle together, not I'm just getting denied, no, no, no,
Yep.
no, no, everywhere I go. It's probably because you just haven't found the lender that's excited about what you're working on. And so you've got to find the person that's excited to loan on what you're doing.
Exactly. Yep. And there's plenty of them. There's plenty of them that are more than ready to help people like create wealth, make money. And obviously they make money, right? So like their job is to lend money to make money. But a lot of them want to see their clients succeed. Almost every lender that I talk to says, I never want to take over a property. So it's not like they're out here just trying to snatch up properties. They want their clients to succeed.
Are you looking to get started or scale in real estate investing but don't know your next step? Are you overwhelmed thinking about finding deals, analyzing deals, doing due diligence, and managing properties on top of it? Go ahead and push the easy button and invest with us. Real estate investing is what we do full time. We've done dozens of deals with hundreds of doors. We have the knowledge and experience to handpick the best deals that most investors can't find. We vet large off-market deals all the time where you can hopefully find returns and economies of scale that you just can't find on your own. The best thing is it's 100% passive to you for less capital than you put down trying to acquire a property on your own. Don't let this year go by where you don't make the leap, add to your portfolio, or you just sit in analysis by paralysis. To find out more, visit freedomthroughrealestate.com and click on invest. You can book a call and learn more there. So get to scaling your portfolio now with us by your side. So talk about your growth and finding lenders. How does that work? You mentioned 48 states. So obviously you've got to get connected with a lot of people and a lot of different loan products. So talk about that process.
Yeah, so I've been doing a whole bunch of outreach just to new lenders and trying to meet as many as I can. So if there is any of them that listen to your podcast, I'd be happy to talk to them and add them to our list. I just had, from doing all that stuff for the last 6 years, I'd made so many personal connections in the Tampa Bay area that I had a huge network of lenders to begin with. And so I started with them. And then as I started moving into other places, I started noticing that a lot of the lenders that I had are already operating in a bunch of the other states. So then it just became, okay, for the guys that are like kind of putting it on my side, like who's doing what in what states, and then just going out and meeting people and talking to people and making phone calls has been how I've built all the lenders. But you'd be surprised at how many lenders exist in the world. But like the other thing is you got to vet them and make sure that they're actually lenders that can lend, because there's a lot of people out there that say that they do private money and they can lend on deals and stuff like that, but not all of them can fulfill their obligations. So making sure we vet them out and making sure that they're a good asset for our people has been another part of the process.
So how does that process work? So if I've got a project that I'm looking to fill, where does that start with you guys?
Yeah, so it would really depend on what type of project it is. So is it a fix and flip? Is it a rental property? Is it a portfolio refinance? Is it a ground up new construction? Is it a multifamily development? Whatever the case may be, then I kind of have the different buckets of different lenders that lend on different things. So we would take a look at what the project is and what they're looking for. And then from there, we would start reaching out to lenders to see if they have appetite for it pretty quickly too. And then we just kind of pair them up with a couple different ones. And, we look through and see who's got the best like fit for what their project is. And then we'll pair them up and they can talk to the lender and go from there. So it really depends on what type of project it is. Like if it's a fix and flip and it's in the Tampa Bay area, I have like 19 lenders that do that. But if it's like, hey, I want to build a $10 million multifamily complex, then I only have a couple people that I can go to for that because it's such a larger amount of financing. So it really just depends on what they're looking to do. But, there's plenty of DSCR guys out there. There's plenty of, I really think DSCR is a hack that a lot of people don't even know about. Like when I say DSCR, it's like, what are you talking about? And it's just basically a rental property loan, debt service coverage ratio. So it would just depend on what kind of loan they're looking for. And then we can work within our network to help them figure it out.
Yeah. I mean, DSCR is all we use for our apartment buildings, right? It's, like you talked about before, right? We've got the income coming in. Can we pay off the expenses in the loan? And is there enough cushion there? And that's really what the lenders are looking for. And if there's enough cushion there, then great.
And you'd be surprised how like competitive they want to be too. Like some of them will reduce their requirements on what the multiplier is to be more competitive. Someone will reduce the down payment that's needed. Some of them can refinance if there's enough equity in the property and they don't even need any closing costs or down payment. So it's like really neat when you start talking to everybody about all the different things that they can do. There's a ton of options.
Yeah, I think, going back to what we've already talked about, I think for people listening, it's realizing that there's a lot of opportunity in the lending side that people want to work with you, right? I think so many times people think like you said, in terms of finding a loan, it's like you're just looking for somebody to say no to you. But there's a lot of people that want to say yes, and it's just probably because you haven't found that right person. And so for somebody looking to do a lot in real estate, it's just finding the right person that can be like, adding gasoline onto your growth. Now it's, how many deals can I find that they want to say yes to? And so there's a ton of opportunity in the lending. And so you're providing a great service and helping people to do that, to pair up that right fit with what that person is trying to do.
Yeah, even if they're high net worth and they want to be the lender, that's a really good opportunity for people too. Like if they, have some extra money and they want to lend out to their friends that are doing deals, like that's a good way to make money and have it collateralized by a real estate asset. So there's a lot of opportunity in lending just in general.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Nick, for coming on and sharing. For people that want to reach out to you, learn more about First Lending Network, how can they do so?
We're on all social media platforms as at First Lending. We have a YouTube channel called The Real Estate Capital Source, but the tag is actually at First Lending. And then if they go to firstlendingnetwork.com, we have a whole frequently asked questions section, a whole bunch of educational resources for people to go look at. You can reach out to me through the website, or you can get me at nick@firstlendingnetwork.com.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Exciting to hear your story, and best of luck to you guys in the future, and best of luck to you on the upcoming wedding.
Yes, very exciting. Thank you so much. Appreciate the time.